welcome back to the deep dive. If you're in communications, well, you know the big challenge today, just information overload.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
How do you get your brand's message heard when, half the world gets news from algorithms and the other half maybe still reads traditional media?
It's a real split.
For years, the press release was king, right? The absolute authority. But now, brands also need to figure out TikTok, Instagram, these platforms with incredibly short attention spans.
Totally different ballgame.
So our mission today is to really dig into this strategy of combining two things that seem poles apart: the classic press release, or PR, and modern influencer marketing, IM.
Right.
The idea is to boost a message using both weight and reach.
Exactly. It's about crafting this unified voice. When you look at the source materials, you see these two distinct elements coming together. First, you've got the press release.
Formal announcement?
Yep. Structured, official, meant to deliver the facts, build that formal credibility, talk to journalists, media outlets. It's kind of the bedrock of corporate authority.
And then the other side, influencer marketing. Completely different energy.
Completely. It runs on creators, people building trust, building communities on social platforms. They do it through, well, ideally, genuine storytelling over time. Their real power is authenticity.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Why combine them? What's the magic there?
Well, the sources really point to this synergy. You merge the official kind of authoritative tone of the PR with the relatable personal voice of the influencer.
Ah, okay.
So this integrated approach, it aims to be stronger, more trustworthy, and maybe most importantly, way more expansive. It lets you talk directly to audiences that, frankly, traditional PR just doesn't reach anymore.
Let's dig into that trust aspect first. There's been a fundamental shift in PR, hasn't there? The sources talk about traditional gatekeepers, journalists, now sharing the stage with content creators.
It's a huge shift. And the why behind audiences listening more to creators often boils down to the trust factor.
Right.
See, influencer content tends to sidestep the skepticism people have towards regular ads. An ad feels like an interruption, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually.
But an influencer endorsement, that feels like part of a conversation the audience already chose to be in. The influencer sort of translates the corporate speak into a human story.
And this isn't just a feeling, right? The data shows this.
Oh, absolutely. Study after study shows consumers trust recommendations from peers, and influencers often feel like peers, way more than they trust brand ads.
Okay.
So the real insight here, for you listening, is you're basically trading broad, maybe passive views for hyper-targeted active engagement. It lets brands connect with really specific niche markets that are otherwise hard to reach.
That's a great distinction, passive exposure versus active engagement.
Okay.
So let's get really strategic. How does this trust shift specifically boost the reach of a good old-fashioned press release?
It's all about message amplification. Influencers effectively become direct channels to these super engaged audiences.
Okay.
Think about the scale. A solid press release might get picked up by media and reach, say, 50,000 readers, which is good. But add maybe 5 well-chosen micro-influencers, you could potentially add a combined audience of 500,000 to that.
Wow. Okay. Big difference.
It's exponential growth in potential reach, especially with younger crowds who get their news from social media personalities, not necessarily traditional news sites.
So it's not just about sending the press release out anymore. You need to equip the influencers with content from the PR.
Precisely. The research suggests practical stuff like giving influencers exclusive early access to the news that makes them feel like insiders, gives them something valuable to share.
It creates buzz.
Exactly. And you also need to give them assets designed for their platform, like shareable quote graphics or little infographics pulled straight from the PR's facts and figures. Make it easy for them to spread the quote info in their own style.
Okay, so we've covered the why, the trust, the amplification. Now, let's shift to the how. The sources really hammer home that success depends on careful planning. What are the absolute must-haves for aligning these two different styles?
The absolute foundation is campaign alignment. Every single influencer partnership needs to genuinely line up with the brand's core values.
Makes sense.
Because if the creator you partner with has a history of saying things that clash with your brand, it doesn't just weaken the campaign, it could actually undermine the credibility your official press release is trying to build.
Right, it backfires.
Totally. So a systematic plan always starts with a really detailed brief. Clear objectives, key messages that must be included, and any absolute no-goes.
But there's a tension there, isn't there?
Yeah.
The sources mention this. You give them the precise facts from the PR, but you also have to give them creative freedom. That must feel risky for comms teams used to controlling every word.
It is. It's definitely a tightrope walk, and yeah, control is usually the big worry.
So how do you manage that risk? What if an influencer goes rogue?
Well, the research suggests the answer lies in really thorough vetting before you partner, and then providing a flexible content toolkit, not some rigid script they have to read.
A toolkit.
Yeah.
Like key messages and assets.
Exactly. Approved facts, figures, quotes from the PR, maybe some visual options, but you trust them to figure out the best way to deliver it for their audience. You're essentially trading a bit of that tight control for a lot more relevance and authenticity.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about timing? How do you sync the official release and the influencer content? Does the PR go first, or do influencers build hype?
The research points to a couple of effective models. Option 1, PR breaks the news first, establishes the official facts via traditional media, then influencers jump in right after to kind of humanize it, explain what it means for their followers.
Get the conversation going.
Yep. Option 2 is the reverse. Influencers start creating buzz, maybe hinting at something big coming like a soft launch. Then the official PR drops with all the meaty details, the data, the executive quotes.
Creates anticipation. So you really need a plan, like a content matrix mapping out who says what, where, and when. Can you break that down a bit more for our listener?
Absolutely. That content matrix is crucial, especially if you're working with multiple influencers across different platforms. It maps it all out.
Okay.
The official press release is always the source of truth, the core facts, figures, the formal quotes. Then the influencers take on the job of translating that into relatable stories tailored for their specific platform.
Like maybe financial details go to LinkedIn, but a product demo goes to TikTok.
Exactly. And ideally, they reference each other, creating these connected touch points for the audience. The matrix also helps assign roles maybe based on influencer size. You know, a macro influencer might share the PR news with some expert analysis, while micro influencers might create really original content inspired by the themes, hitting those super specific niche audiences.
Let's circle back to credibility for a second. We know people can be skeptical of press releases. They know it's promotional material, right?
Inherently, yeah.
So in this integrated model, how exactly do influencers help overcome that skepticism and add credibility to the formal announcement?
They act as credibility enhancers, essentially like a third-party validator.
Okay.
The trust their audience already has in them gets transferred, at least partially, to your brand's message when they share it. It feels less like an ad and more like a genuine recommendation from someone they trust, like a peer. And that's why micro-influencers can be so effective here. Their communities might be smaller, but the connection often feels more authentic, more like a real peer-to-peer relationship than with a huge celebrity.
Right. The trust level is potentially higher.
Definitely. But again, for this to work, that value alignment is critical. If you're launching a sustainability initiative, partnering with known environmental advocates gives your message immense weight because their audience already trusts their judgment on that specific topic.
That need for validation must change how we even write the press release then. Does the traditional formal language need an update?
It needs flexibility. A generic, one-size-fits-all press release just won't cut it in an integrated campaign like this. The core message has to be adaptable, tailored to fit each influencer's voice and what their audience expects. That's content tailoring 101.
So, different tones for different platforms.
Exactly. You have to think, is this for a Gen Z TikTok audience where it needs to be casual, maybe funny? Or is it for LinkedIn thought leaders where it needs to be more polished, more professional?
And the format, too. You can't just give them a block of text and expect magic.
No way. You have to think, does this need to be a script for a short video? A series of images for an Instagram carousel? A detailed caption? You're relying on the influencer's expertise to make the, let's be honest, sometimes dry factual content feel relevant on their platform.
So that flexible content toolkit becomes key again.
Absolutely. Give them the approved facts, the key messages, maybe different visual options, but empower them to deliver it authentically without compromising the core announcement.
All right, this brings us to the crucial final step for our listener, measurement. If we're blending PR and influencer marketing, how do we actually track the results? How do we build a system to prove the ROI?
Okay, this is where we get a bit technical, but it's essential. You need to unify the data. The absolute must-have is using UTM parameters on all your links.
Okay, UTM's those little tracking codes you add to URLs.
Exactly. Simple codes you tack onto the end of a web address. You put them on the links in your press release distribution and on every link shared in influencer content.
Why is it so critical?
Because it lets you see precisely which link, which press release pickup, which influencer post drove traffic to your site or led to a sign-up or a purchase.
Got it. It traces the source.
Right. Then Google Analytics becomes your main dashboard. You can set it up to show traffic and conversions coming from influencers right next to the results from your traditional media coverage, all in one place.
Okay, so quantitatively, we're tracking reach, clicks, traffic, maybe sales, but the sources also talk about qualitative data, the fuzzier stuff like sentiment or message recall. How do you measure that?
Yeah, that takes a bit more effort and often specialized tools. It's about going beyond the numbers. For instance, to track message retention, you'd use social listening tools to monitor conversations. Are people actually repeating the key points from your press release?
I see.
You'd also analyze the overall sentiment, are comments positive, negative, neutral, and track brand perception over time. Did the campaign shift how people view the brand? You can also calculate cost per engagement to compare how efficient the combined campaign was versus just doing PR or just doing IM separately. Does the added credibility justify the cost?
That makes a lot of sense. But before sinking budget into this, you need to be sure the influencers are legit, right? That the trust you're leveraging is real. How do data tools help vet potential partners?
This is a huge area now, brand safety and verification. Tools like Square or Trend Hero, they go way beyond just looking at follower counts.
What do they look at?
They analyze real engagement rates, the actual demographics of the audience, are they the people you want to reach? And crucially, they provide authenticity scores.
Authenticity scores.
Right.
Like detecting fake followers.
Exactly. Basically, software that helps figure out if an audience is mostly real people or just bots and fake accounts. It's about making sure you're not wasting money talking to nobody.
Protects the budget.
Protects the budget, ensures you're building on genuine influence. These tools can also look at brand affinity. Has this influencer successfully worked with similar brands before? And the research suggests that the long-term benefits, like brand awareness and loyalty, built through these carefully vetted partnerships, often outweigh any quick, short-term sales bumps.
This has been incredibly insightful, a real deep dive. The takeaway seems clear. Integrating the authority of PR with the trust of influencer marketing isn't just a trend. It's looking like the future of brand comms.
It really seems that way. It's about building credibility and genuine connections.
So final practical advice for someone listening who wants to try this.
Based on the research, the best advice is probably start small. Don't try to boil the ocean on day one. Pick one or two influencers who really align with your brand values for your next announcement. Give them that early access, maybe use that toolkit approach. Track everything meticulously with those UTMs we talked about. Analyze the results, what worked, what didn't. Then adjust your strategy based on the actual data. The brands learning how to do this integration well now are likely setting themselves up to lead tomorrow.
Excellent advice. And to leave you, our listener, with something to think about. If we're now relying so heavily on data tools like Square to verify if an influencer's audience is real, to essentially quantify authenticity, what does that mean for the future of journalism itself, especially when trust, that age-old currency of communication, is increasingly being measured and maybe even outsourced to algorithms?
That's a fascinating question.
Something to mull over. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.